Hi, good evening. This is Assemblywoman Petrie-Norris. Welcome to tonight's virtual self-defense workshop. So pleased you're able to join us and looking forward to learning how we can better protect ourselves and better avoid threatening or dangerous situations. Really pleased that my office was able to partner with the California Highway Patrol and with Golden West's Criminal Justice Training Center to bring you tonight's virtual self-defense workshop. And really pleased to be joined by some very special guests this evening. We're joined by Officer Florentino Oliveira from the California Highway Patrol. Officer Oliveira, thanks for being here. And by
I'm Officer DiMatteo.
Officer DiMatteo as well. Thank you both so much for being here. And we're also joined by Kevin Dedeaux, who joins us from the Golden West College Training Center. Kevin, can you just take a minute to introduce yourself to the folks watching at home?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to do this. I'm a retired police officer, former Marine, and again, retired police officer from the city of Santa Ana. I've been teaching arrest and control for over 20 years now, and have been teaching at the Golden West Police Academy since about 2006. So for my background, I'm specifically trained with teaching officers defensive tactics.
Wonderful. And I know you're going to be walking us through a presentation in a little bit, but before we do that, I would love our officers. Can you introduce yourself a bit more to the folks at home? Where do you serve? A bit more about your background, and also I would love to get your perspective, and if you could share a bit more with our participants about the California Highway Patrol's role in promoting personal and public safety.
Good evening. So my name is Officer Oliveira. I've been with the department for 13 years. I've been the public information officer for the past 7 years. And my advice to the public is when you're out there on the freeways is always be aware of your surroundings. Never engage in any road rage incidents. Ignore it. Keep on going. We know what the consequences can be, and it can be very devastating.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Officer DiMatteo, and I have 4 years on, so not as many as Officer Oliveira. And we serve here in the heart of Orange County. I'm the Community Outreach Programs Officer, so I deal a lot with the community, particularly in the unincorporated area, North Tustin and Santa Ana. Just to echo kind of what Officer Oliveira said, and I know Kevin will be talking more about self-defense, but we, of course, focus on safety on the highways. And lately, we've been seeing a lot of people who have been very impatient while driving. What can we attribute that to? A multitude of things. You have, during COVID, you had fewer cars on the roadway. People grew accustomed to driving a certain way on the roadway, where there wasn't as much traffic. And now that traffic has sort of resumed its normal capacity on the roadways, and people are no longer able to drive in a way that they were accustomed to, I think people are losing patience a lot easier. So that's one of the things that we're seeing out there. We're getting a lot of calls of highway violence, people involved in physical altercations after being involved in a collision. So I'm sure Kevin will address some of those issues and how to maintain safety, not just on the roadways, but just in general.
Well, and Officer DiMatteo, as you mentioned, we've seen this seeming uptick in incidents of road rage, including the very, very tragic killing of a child that occurred in our community just last week. I have also gotten some questions, and I know it was not connected with that incident, but if you wouldn't mind, before we jump into the workshop, I've gotten some questions from folks about the uptick in the BB gun shootings that have been happening on the highway. Would you just be able to give folks a quick overview of that and an update on what's happening there and the investigation into those incidents before we hand it over to Kevin for the workshop?
So over the past month, I think as of yesterday afternoon, we've had over 100 cases regarding the window shatterings, the incidents with BB guns. But we want the public to know that they're going to be safe on the highways. We have officers out there working 24 hours, 7 days a week. And our mission is always to provide safety and service and security to the people in California. And we don't want them to be scared to use the highways. We're out there. And if you're a victim of this incident, we're asking that if you have a Bluetooth in the car, utilize that Bluetooth immediately and call 911 and give other information of your location, time, and description of vehicles in the surrounding area. Most of the time, victims of this continue on to the workplace or to their destination, and hours go by or the following day, and we lose all that information that's very important for the investigation.
And to add to that, we do have, I think the reason why Officer Olvera is stressing the importance of jumping on that Bluetooth, calling 911 is because we have officers throughout all of Orange County on the 5 and the 405, the 22, the 91, the 57, 241, 133, everywhere. And at all times. So when people do call in, if they're able to say, hey, listen, this just happened. I'm currently southbound 405, south of Sand Canyon. It's happened in this area. We might have an officer that's right there. So we can have an officer respond and see if we can find possibly a suspect vehicle. If the driver is able to give us a vehicle description, we can have an officer respond in a timely manner. Okay.
So timely, so quick and timely reporting is the best way for us to help you do your jobs and help get these just really dangerous folks off the roads and keep the community safe. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that update. I know I kind of sprung that question on you. And now with that, Kevin, I'd like to turn it over to you. As we heard from the officers, in recent months, we've seen an uptick in road rage incidents. Sadly, I think we all know we've also seen an uptick in hate incidents and in hate crimes across our community here in Orange County and indeed all across the country. So we know that it's more important than ever for members of the community to be vigilant and to be aware. And I don't think we want to scare anyone, but I think forewarned is forearmed. So I want to thank you for being here and for helping arm ourselves with the knowledge to avoid dangerous situations and get ourselves out of them if we find ourselves in a bad situation. So with that, Kevin, I'm going to hand it over to you for your presentation and virtual workshop.
Yes, ma'am. Again, thank you for this opportunity and everybody who's participating. And I just wanted to reiterate what Officer DiMatteo said was, oftentimes we take our emotions. Maybe we're having a bad day at home or something. We get on the freeway and we get on and somebody cuts us off and we take those emotions with us. And we have to recognize that we have to be vigilant in our own emotions when we're driving as well, because unfortunately there's people out there that will take it to the next level, and that's what we don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my presentation, and I just want to reiterate that my goal is to just make people wiser and recognize recognize things they can do to make themselves safer just by the mere presentation of what they do, rather than what they don't do. And let's see. Okay. First of all, I want to touch on a point is we always think about self-defense and we think about what we're defending ourselves from attack. And quite frankly, the true definition of self-defense is actually dealing with somebody that does not want to attack you. And we do that by our mere presentation, by the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we do things, our situational awareness. These are the things that are most important. And as we go through this presentation, I'll expand on it more so we get a better grasp of what I'm saying. Excuse me. There's often times when we will get into a situation and we look, and as we're getting into the situation, we look back and we go, I can't believe I got myself into that. And it's because sometimes we get caught up in everyday life. We're not paying attention to our surroundings or what we're doing or what people are doing around us. And it causes us to go over and put ourselves in situations that we shouldn't be in. There's nothing that you own that can't be replaced. There's only one thing, it's your life. If they want your car, take the car. You got insurance. They want the phone, it's fine. Take the phone. It doesn't matter. There's nothing that you own in this world that can't be replaced. And I've been, even me as a retired police officer, I tell my friends and my kids, they go, well, you get to do that. I go, no. You want my car? Take the car. I don't care. I can get another car. I'm fine with it. And we have to recognize that, and recognize that you don't want people taking you to a secondary crime scene. In other words, they go over and they go, come over here, and hey, come here, and you look in the little cubby hole area, and you're going, excuse me, and you walk in there and you're creating a crime scene and yourself. Pay mind and pay attention to your surroundings and know what you're doing, and prevent it, and prevent yourself from being a victim. Oftentimes when bad people are going to, whether they've been in prison, oftentimes it takes them about 7 seconds to assess who's going to be their victims. And it doesn't take a whole lot. There was a study done in 2017 just in regards to this. And what they did is they took some people that were in prison and they showed them a video and they told them to be honest. And they said, who would you pick as a victim? And you would have thought that they would have picked maybe on the elderly. They may have picked on females, smaller males, something of that nature. So you would have thought that would have been their mindset, and it wasn't that. What they did is they looked at the way the person walked, what they were doing while they were walking, whether they walked weak, whether they were talking on their cell phone, playing with their phones. And so it's kind of surprising that it wasn't based on the appearance more than what the person was doing that would make this bad person want to attack them. And remember that even when bad people want to attack you, they have their own goal too. And one of the goals is they don't want to get caught because they don't want to go back to jail, and they don't want to get hurt. That's their goal. And we as the general public can turn that around to turn that against them. And that's ultimately our goal if we're attacked. Again, just what I said, suspects or bad people, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for the way you stand. If you stand weak, if you stand with your head down, your body language is sitting there and your arms are all closed up and you're looking like you're scared. The way your gait is, or even your stride. They even watch the way you walk. If you have a long stride, a short stride, whether it's normal, whether your head is on whether your head is turning around and you're looking in the area, you're watching what's going on and watching where you're walking. All these little things can add to your safety just by you taking these preventive measures. Again, just what I just reiterated, you have to be mentally prepared. You have to be self-confident. You have to be self-assured. And oftentimes this just takes practice. It just takes practice. We have to practice walking in crowds, and we have to practice walking with friends. One of the things I have 3 daughters, and they're all in their 30s and 40s now. And I have 8 grandchildren, and I tell them all the same thing. You always stick together. You don't go out to the park by yourself. You don't go work out by yourself. There's always the buddy system. Kind of think of it like when you're diving, there's always a buddy system, or you're hiking. That ensures your safety as well. And that's really important that we do that. And again, we see people all the time. I see it drives me crazy is people walking around with headphones on in the mall, walking the street. You see people, you see the funny videos and it's not funny, but people laugh about it. Someone playing with their cell phone and they run into the pole, and it happens every day. And as funny as some people may think it is, if you really think it from a tactical view, it's really sad because they're setting themselves up to get hurt. And there's bad people that are looking for that. I go to bigger cities here in California, and sometimes I walk around and my wife has to grab me by the arm and she tells me, stop it, because I look and I go, God, these people don't really know what they're doing because they're just not paying attention out there. And I'm not saying be paranoid, but be aware of what's going out there. And lastly, And we see it all the time. People sitting in the cars, windows rolled down, stereo up, and they're texting. And their heads just buried into that phone. Again, people are looking for that. There's people out there that want to make you that victim, and you don't want to be that person. Again, just what I said earlier, you walk with confidence, you walk with purpose. In the Marine Corps, we used to always tell people, you walk with a purpose or just stop walking. That was our goal. You always walk with a purpose. And oftentimes you can my friends and other people I know, they will tell you, you can always tell someone that's been in the military, whether it's the Marine Corps or the Army or whatever other branch. You can always tell, and you can always tell police officers just by the way they walk, because they have a tendency to walk with a purpose. It doesn't matter whether it's CHP or Santa Ana or the sheriff's department. Everybody pretty much walks the same, because that's just the way we're all just geared that way. And bad people pick up on that stuff. Again, what I said earlier, you stay in crowds, you walk in crowds, you don't walk by yourself. Even in the evening time, I know summertime's coming, people love walking in the evening. I don't blame you. But at the same time, pay attention, take a friend. If you have a dog, take your dog with you. Do all these things so people can, bad people won't, they're a little bit more hesitant, especially with animals. People are a little bit more hesitant to mess with people. Again, what we talked about with the 5 areas of awareness. If someone tries to talk to you, there's nothing that doesn't say you can't be nice to them. Don't, oh my God, leave me alone. You don't need to do any of that. You can be nice, but you can still be in the protection mode. And that's what you really want to do, is just let them know I acknowledge you, and then go about your business. You don't need to carry on conversations. They ask you, hey, do you know how to get to walking? No, don't walk. If you know, then great. Tell them, make it short, simple, and keep walking. Don't hesitate. Don't, again, watch where you're being stopped and your back and things of that nature. And it'll just lessen the chance of you being attacked. I've seen this before, and we've seen this on TV and through news media and things of that nature. And when we've all seen the shows where people are giving information to strangers, and to this day, we still tell people not to do it, and they do it. And it's amazing. I get the calls from Social Security telling they're gonna come to my house with agents and take me to jail and all that. And I always tell them, well, come visit me, and me and my friends will be waiting for you, and they hang up real fast. But there's still people out there that do this, and there's people out there, that's what they're hoping for. And it's unfortunate, but that's what they're looking for. And again, we call it the 3 S's. I won't get into it too much, but it's kind of common sense. Watch what you're doing, be aware of what's going on. And if your instincts tell you it's bad, or the hair on the back of your neck, well, I don't have any, but for those that have hair, the hair on the back of your neck starts to itch, then something's wrong. Something is genuinely wrong, and you need to pay attention. And just what the officers from Santa Ana CHP had said, there's nothing that says you can't keep your phone on speed dial 911. Nothing that says that. And maybe your gut's wrong, you push 911, that's okay. Tell dispatch, I'm sorry. It's no big deal. It's better to be sorry, to tell them sorry, than to be sorry. Excuse me. Set your boundaries. We all have comfort zones. And let me reiterate that in different cultures, there's different comfort zones. I'm from the South. I'm from Mississippi. I'm Creole. We are huggers. We're touchers. That's what we do. And if you go down to the South, you go to Mississippi, people have a habit of touching you and hugging, because that's our culture. That's what we do. California, not so much. It's just different. And we have other cultures like here, and with different people from different countries and stuff like that. They come from areas where they're used to it, and then there's other where they're not used to it. And you have to recognize that and respect that. And it's all in the presentation sometimes too, when you're dealing with people. And when people come to your comfort zone, you can always step back and say, excuse me, I just don't feel comfortable. and it makes it real simple, you know. Excuse me. De-escalation is the key. I don't recommend anybody to go out there and go out there and start punching and kicking everybody and stabbing people with your pins and keys. Oftentimes, if you can charm them just to go away, then by all means, please do so. The big thing is you don't disrespect people, you don't challenge them, you don't try to control them, and don't threaten them. Treat them as a human being and let them see the human side of you as well, because sometimes that will kind of click with them too. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. Those little nuances sometimes will click and they go, you know what, just go away and no leave. So think about things that how can I get out of this by talking my way out of it versus my then having to fight my way out of it. I'm going to go through a couple of techniques just in case. Let me preface this by saying that I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been training in martial arts since I was about 17 years old, and I'm older. I'm older than 17 now, but and even with the things I know and the things I've been trained to do, I would much rather talk my way out of something than have to fight somebody, because the truth of the matter is you don't know who you're fighting out there. And so but at the same token, I want you to recognize those that are watching. I want you to recognize that there are things that you can do that may buy you time so you can get out of a bad situation. Again, Newton's second law, right? Force equals mass and acceleration. So if somebody comes at you, you come at them harder. That's just the rule. That's the rule. Newton's second law. I'm a big fan of that. I preface everything because I have 3 daughters. I tell my daughters, someone comes at you, you come at them twice as hard. That way it buys you time to get out of there. And that's most important, you to get out of there. Here's 6 key points that we really encourage people to do. But most importantly, the 2 places that are guarantees that will go over and fend off a fighter is their eyes and their throat. The groin, the solar plexus, the knee, those are target specific. And the groin is a good area to strike, but at the same time, I will tell you from experience, I've hit people in the groin and there was no effect. So, but the eyes and the throat are a guarantee. You disrupt their breathing, you disrupt their sight, they will move out the way. And that's our focus. You know, I always tell people the old Three Stooges thing where they go over and they take their 2 fingers and they poke someone in the eye. You do that in real life to somebody and it's going to hurt. A simple pin in the eye. You know, it's things of that nature. And we think, oh, I couldn't do that. Well, when your life's on the line, yeah, you'll do it. Trust me. This is the area where you want to hit people in the throat. There's a soft, and those that are watching, if you notice in between your collarbone, there's a soft spot right where your voice box is. If you push on that, it causes a lot of distress. And if you start hitting that area, it will disrupt their breathing and they will back off. And that's what we want. Oftentimes people will push against someone's neck and this is a strong muscle mass and there's not a whole lot of effect. But that little sweet spot, just where the 2 collarbones meet, that will cause a reaction for them to move. These are a couple of strikes that I'm a big fan of. It's used by Krav Maga. Those that aren't familiar, Krav Maga is an Israeli fighting system. It's one of the more popular self-defenses that are now being used in the U.S. It's very effective. And you notice that the young woman with the male sitting there, she's striking with her palm. And the most important part of that is we make a fist, and this wasn't meant for as a striking instrument. We box and things of that nature, and if you hit somebody wrong, you break these bones right here. I know this from experience. But more importantly, if you break this doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You hit someone in the forehead. When I was at Santa Ana Police Department, I was the use of force coordinator, so I oversaw all use of forces involving our officers. And I was also on the shooting review board, and I saw all the injuries from officers. And one of the things that I saw when an officer would get into a fight, he'd punch somebody, he or she would punch them in the head, and they would end up with a hand injury because the head is so hard. Palm heel strike, this soft area right in this region right here, this is very strong, very, very strong. I mean, you can break windows, you can do all kinds of things with this, and there's not a whole lot of damage because it's so meaty. And if you notice at this picture, that's what this young lady's doing. She's going from right up underneath that chin, and she's using that palm heel strike, which is very effective in the real world. Again, what I said about the groin area, I don't want to be too descriptive, but if you nowadays, I always look at the younger generation, and I wonder why they're wearing their grandparents' pants, because they're sagging down to their knees. And if you try to strike somebody in the groin, oftentimes the crotch area of their jeans are down by their knees. So what I'm a big fan of is when someone is just in this, what this picture depicts, if someone's grabbing you by the neck, rather than striking, grab them there. Grab them there and let them know that they've been grabbed. And I'm not going to go any further with that. You let your imagination run wild. But it's effective. It's very effective. And remember, again, please understand, this is your life we're talking about. Whenever someone assails you and they're going to hurt you, they always look at the worst, and that way the worst will come out in you to protect yourself. Again, knees to the groin are very effective. At the same time, if you're going to do that, understand if you're going to throw a knee like that, once you throw the knee, you need to get out of there because you're in close proximity. Throw that knee and get out of there. And I apologize, I have to back up. When anybody attacks you, the first thing you're doing is you're screaming. I don't care whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. You scream like nobody's business because it goes back to what I said earlier, bad guys and girls don't want to get caught. So you want attention, you want everything. So all this is going on, you're screaming like nobody's business. Just like I teach at the police academy, I tell all my recruits, I tell them, you will verbalize what's going on. You give them instruction on stop fighting, get down on the ground. You want all the focus you can on you and this person that's trying to hurt you. That way everybody knows what's going on. And we as civilians, we need to do the same thing. Again, this goes to the same thing. Somebody goes over and tries to grab this person, this picture, and you see their left arm is just pushing that one hand away. Their palm heel striking, and then of course the knee to the groin. Now I show you this, but understand this takes a lot of practice. It takes, I'm a big fan of people going to the gym and heavy bags, and you go nice and slow, and you just work this, and you work this, and you get this to where it's muscle memory. And these kind of things will pay off. They'll pay dividends in the long run. But again, practice makes perfect. Pardon me. When someone grabs you from behind, it's real simple. It's just the elbow. It's turning and seeing. And sometimes you can elbow people in the face, or you may be able to elbow them in the stomach or even in the chest. More importantly, all we're trying to do is break their grip and get out of there. Just get out of there. Don't admire your work. Hit them and get out of there. I tell people that all the time. Don't stand over them like Muhammad Ali. Just hit them and get out of there. Again, scream and yell, get your attention. Again, this is more of a visual, a picture of it. Again, somebody comes up behind them, and you see where they're striking. Again, you notice most of the strikes are always in the face area, always under the chin. And the reason being is because where the head goes, the body must follow. So when you're hitting under the chin and the head goes up, the body goes back. It's nothing you can do about it. The assailant, there's nothing you can do about it. Where the head goes, the body must follow. This is an A-frame kick. And if you read what it says, not until you get kicked in the A-frame, and that's just that. When we're standing normally, where our legs are, think of it as an A, just as a ladder. And when you're going to go over and kick somebody, I always instruct people, think of it as your leg as a baseball bat, and you're going for the grand slam. And that's what you want to get. Again, we kick, we get out, and we're done. On the ground, same thing. You can fight on the ground. You can protect yourself. There's no reason why you need to lay on the ground and just wait for someone to come towards you. As they're coming towards you, you can up kick. You can do it. And if you notice on the first picture, the young lady, she's sitting, she's literally on her hip. She's on her side. She's got her arm posted, and she's got that leg up. So when this person in real life wanted to go over and put his face down, there's nothing that says she can't take that foot and put it on his face and get him off of her. So she can stand up and she can get out of there. And the same thing with the bottom one, or the one to the other picture, is she's going for his knees. And again, just to get up and get out of there. If you go to the ground, please get up. Get up as fast as you can. Don't lie on the ground any longer than what you have to. Again, this is a good picture of just that. You know, we want to do those things. That way we ensure our safety, because when you're being assaulted, number one, your life at that moment is you. You have to take care of yourself. And lastly, I just like I said earlier, I don't scream, I don't yell. That's my claim to fame. My kids have always said it. I raised my voice at my son when he was 19 years old. I just don't do those things. I think it's a waste of time. I do train, and I train. When I do train, I'm very serious about it. All my injuries over the years have been because of training, not because of things that happened on the street. I'd like to think that some of it was because of my prior training. It kept me safe, and then some of it I think was just good old dumb luck. Understand that if somebody comes to you and they're going to hurt you, you have to rise above it. You know, that's one of the biggest things I can say. You know, the word fear has two meanings, and if you use it as an acronym, the first one is forget everything and run. That's simple. Forget everything and just run. And then the other one is face everything and rise. That's your option. But most importantly, there's nobody out there that needs to be a victim. And that's the most important thing. And with that, thank you.
I was muted. It wouldn't be
Okay.
a Zoom. Wouldn't be a Zoom.
I
call
thought it
if
was just
didn't-
my hearing.
Wouldn't be a Zoom call if it didn't happen at least once. Well, thank you so much. You've given us
Yes,
a
ma'am.
ton to think about. I know I was taking some notes. I think a couple things that really stood out for me. Number one was your point that looking like a victim is less about what you might look like and more about how you're acting and how you're presenting yourself to the world. And we can't control what we look like. I can't control that I'm 5'3.5"
Right.
but I can control the way that I show up in the world and make sure that I'm paying attention, walking with confidence, not making myself look like a target. That really stuck with me. I think my favorite might be the avoid the stupids. Avoid the stupids. So, and I think we all know what you mean when you say
Yes,
stupid
ma'am.
times, stupid places, and stupid people.
Yes, ma'am.
And also to trust your gut. So just a couple of questions. So, some of the things that you showed with the illustrations and then with the examples. Is it Krav Maga? Krav Maga?
Krav Maga.
Krav Maga.
Yes, ma'am.
So some of those look easier than others, right? If you're someone who hasn't done any kind of training, somebody's not in the gym, kind of learning to throw a punch, someone were to suddenly come at me, what's the easiest thing that I can do, kind of the biggest bang for my buck, as it were?
Yes, ma'am. If you would, take a hand and put your hand just like this. Put your hand like that. Let me see it. Now show me your fingertips. Your fingertips. Now just dig it into someone's eyes.
All right. So the fingertips in the eyes, or a pen in the eye, is
dig in
easiest.
their eyes.
Okay.
Just dig in their eyes. Just dig in their eyes. It's that simple. And just what you said too, and just what you showed earlier, that palm heel strike. And see, and I showed it one time, and and you immediately just took it, because it's very natural for you to do something like that, because we're used to going, stop, don't do this. Well, that's also a strike. That's also your palm-heel strike. But again, just to reiterate, your fingers are such great weapons, yet we don't utilize them. We don't think about it. We don't think about raking the eyes. We don't think about grabbing the hair and throwing them on the ground. We don't think about grabbing the ears. Remember when we were little kids? I don't know. But when I was a little kid, my grandmother would grab me by the ear. And, when we'd go to mass, and if I was talking during mass, she'd grab me by the ear and tell me to be quiet, Well, it hurts. Well, in real life, you think about grabbing someone's ear and yanking on it. So there's the number one rule in street fighting is you win. At all costs, you win. So I think that'd be about the best answer.
And before it gets to that point, you talked about the importance and sometimes the efficacy of de-escalation. And obviously, there are just a myriad of different types of situations. But in your experience, do things kind of escalate in a progression, or is it more sudden? Is it, because I think when I think about the potential of needing to defend myself, I often think of the person just sort of pouncing out of nowhere in a dark parking lot and I'm totally caught unawares. Is that more typical, or is there sometimes kind of this this escalation and almost this dance back and forth that you have a more ability to nip in the bud?
Well, yes, ma'am. And unfortunately, you're right. What we've seen here recently is more of the sudden attack from behind. That's not uncommon, but at the same time, it's not. Sometimes when you're walking down the street, you see that person following you, or they're a few feet behind you and stuff. Nothing says you can't go over, and you get that funny feeling that this person's like sizing me up. Nothing says that you can't walk into the store for a brief second, just to see what they're doing. Maybe it's a false call, or a false call on your part, and they continue to walk, or maybe they stop and look back to see when you're coming out. And so it's little nuances like that. And like you said earlier about just trust your instinct. So to answer your question, it is the sudden attack, but at the same time too, we shouldn't never think about, okay, someone's just going to suddenly attack me and I got to walk around like a ninja. I mean, everybody relax, but we have to pay attention to our surroundings, and that's what's important.
Right, exactly. Because if you're not plugged in and kind of in the moment, if you're distracted, then you're not, your gut's not going to be picking up on these clues that might be there and might be available and might let you avoid the dangerous situation. And then actually the last question I want to ask you, so there's a story that has stuck in my head ever since I took an introduction to psychology class my freshman year of college, and they told us the story of Kitty Genovese, which I assume is a fairly famous story. But the story, and it's terrible, was that this woman was being attacked kind of in a public square and screaming for help, and it was late at night, but everybody just assumed someone else was going to do something about it. And the lesson from that was you got to make sure that you're not that other people aren't assuming somebody else is doing it, and that if you're in a crowded space, that you actually say, you in the blue hat, I need your help. How important, I guess, A, how important is that, and B, how often do people intervene? Are there good Samaritans out there?
We have good Samaritans, and it's good, but at the same time, I'm a firm believer that we need to work closer as a community. We can't depend on, and I'm a retired police officer, so and then we can't believe that there's going to be a police officer in every corner of America. It's just not going to happen. So we need to watch out for ourselves too, and a strong community will often go over and lower the crime in your communities. Just neighbors calling because they see a car parked in front of their neighbor. They're calling because they see a strange car parked in front of their neighbor's house. They go, "That's odd. That car shouldn't be there." or somebody's getting attacked. You don't know the person, but you intercede. Oftentimes, the person that's attacking will run. They'll just run because they want no part of it. But it's really important that we take care of ourselves as a community as a whole. And just what you brought up, years ago, people sometimes assume, well, I'm not going to worry about it because so and so will do it, or that person's. We never assume that. We must take action as a community to fight against these people and to protect each other. It goes back to a lieutenant colonel by the name of Grossman, who wrote the books on killing and on combat. And what he said was there's 3 classes of people in the world. And there's sheep, there's sheepdogs, and there's wolves. And oftentimes the sheep is just that. They will go over and they'll say, well, so-and-so will do it. I'm not going to get involved. But we all need to be sheepdogs. We need to go over and protect each other. And wolves will not, wolves historically will not go after a sheepdog. These sheepdogs are fast and they walk together as cats. And that's where we need to be. We need to be sheepdogs. We don't need to be sheep. And that's how we'll fed off the predators of the world.
Right. And that's so spot on, because, and I think it's so important to also remember that, yes, we hear stories about bad, there are bad people and there are dangerous people in our community. We've got to be smart about avoiding those situations and keeping ourselves safe. But it's also true that the vast majority of people in our community are good, and we're stronger.
Absolutely.
We are stronger when we can come together and take care of one another, whether it's in this literal way or in more expansive ways as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So any parting thoughts for folks watching at home? Any last words of wisdom you'd leave us with?
The only thing I would say is you're never too old to start training. That's just don't ever believe, oh, well, I'm too old, my body no. You're never too old to train. And the littlest things can protect you. It's a set of keys in your hand. Great weapon. The keys are just phenomenal. It's just little things like that. So I would encourage everybody, think about the way you present yourself. Do you walk weak? When you get nervous, is your stride longer? Is it shorter? Is your head on a swivel? Are you watching what's going on around you? And I think that's just so important. And once you start getting confidence, and the more you train, the more confident you will become. And I'm not talking about false confidence. I'm talking about confidence within yourself to at least protect yourself and to protect your family. And that's first and foremost.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you again for joining
Yes,
us and for sharing that with all of us. Appreciate that. And so officers DiMatteo and Oliveira, Kevin gave us, as I said, a ton to think about, and I think a ton to take away. Would love to just hear any parting thoughts from you all, any other points that you really want folks at home to take away.
Well, for me, it's something I tell my wife and kids all the time is always be aware of your surroundings. Don't let your guard down.
Mm-hmm.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah, and just to reiterate what Kevin said, I come from a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background, and it's never too late to train, right? It doesn't matter if it's boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Krav Maga, Taekwondo, whatever it is, train, because you'll notice a change in yourself. You'll notice a rise in confidence, and that is going to affect how you carry yourself, how you comport yourself, how you walk around. And when a possible assailant sees someone walking around with confidence, they're going to move on to the next target. They will skip you and move on to somebody else who they think might be weak. So,
right. Yep. I have a friend, and I don't want to make light of this, but I'll close with this. To your point about you got to sort of just present yourself as stronger than that next person. I've got a friend who, when she was joking about how when she goes hiking alone, she actually takes a thing of mace in the hills of Laguna Beach. And I was hiking with her. I said, "Why don't you have a thing of mace today?" She said, "Well, I've got you. I can outrun you. I don't need to worry about it." I said, "Oh, All right, I better get training. Don't want to be the weak link. But with that, wanted to say thank you again, officers, and thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing your insights. Appreciate it. To everyone at home, as you've heard, expect the unexpected and ensure that you are presenting yourself in a way that does not make you a victim to dangerous situations. And with that, we will say goodnight and look forward to seeing you next time. Be well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good night.